Good morning or good afternoon now. Good morning. Um, Trying this one last time. We got Speaker of the House Mike Johnson speaking right now live. I'm gonna go straight to it here. Hold on one sec. Let me go straight to it. I was trying to send Ryan an invite back to there he is. What's up, Ryan? All
Hey,
right,
buddy.
let's get this show on the road and let's see what happens. We got Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. I missed the
It is
shutdown.
Democrats who have chosen not to fund government. We at least establish that truth, right? It is in fact the truth. And the question is why? And you saw it on Saturday. It was basically for a political rally. Rally for cover for Chuck Schumer, who's in his own political battle in New York. That's the truth. And the irony of this is, this No Kings rally. What are we actually talking about? I mean, it wasn't President Trump, but Democrats who tried to make us take a shot and lose our job. It wasn't President Trump, but Democrats who were burning our cities to the ground in 2020 and attacking police officers. It wasn't President Trump, but it was Democrats who want to push boys into girls' locker rooms, who want to force surgeries upon children. It wasn't President Trump, but Democrats who pushed fraudulent mail-in ballots in 2020 and left the elections in question. And then when Americans dared to question that stuff, they sought to jail the American people. They weaponized the government against the American
One last
people.
try,
And
Billy.
now they want to turn around and say they're going to have a No Kings rally. This is the dying breath of a bankrupt party, in my humble opinion. All too happy to shut down the government, then have a Chicago teacher walk around with this symbol against
What's up, John?
Somebody
Hi,
tell me
John.
how that's appropriate. Where are the Democrats that are crying out about how horrific that was? And by the way, where are the Democrats who are calling out the Attorney General in Virginia for calling on the death of children of a political opponent? Where is Abigail Spanberger, one of our former colleagues running for governor of Virginia? Do they not have the courage to call out fellow Democrats for that absurdity? The truth is, we have a president. We don't have a king. We have a president who loves our country, who rightly said yesterday that he's working his ass off to make this country great. He is correct. Brokering peace deals in the Middle East, rebuilding our military,
Going all right,
rooting out
John.
DEI and critical race theory, declaring cartels as terrorist organizations, focusing on Antifa, defunding the World Health Organization, getting us out of UNRWA, making sure that we target the Southern Poverty Law Center, who are, going after people like our friends at the Family Research Council, or ultimately Charlie Kirk. Securing the border, passing the Lake and Riley Act. These are the things the American people want us to do, not shutting down the government for political rallies. And the truth is, the Marxists, the radicals, and the Islamists, the Democratic Party promoted this weekend, they cannot handle the truth. The truth is that there is a king, and that king is Jesus. And the president has been willing to say it, his administration has been willing to say it, and Charlie Kirk was willing to say it, and he got killed for it. Democrats are using this ridiculous political exercise to hold hostage the government of the American people, pretending it's about health care. Meanwhile, it's the Democrats who've been holding the American people hostage to an unconscionably broken health care system that they themselves created. We're saying no more. We're the party that's standing up for hardworking Americans who can't afford health care, who can't afford insurance. We're not for giving more money to the insurance companies. We're not for a $400 billion blank check to big corporate America and corporate welfare, like my friend from Maryland said. We're not for health care for illegal aliens, but for standing up for American citizens to be able to afford health care, to carry forward the president's good policies, like short-term limited duration plans, and other ways that people can actually go and afford health care. We're for law and order. We're not for hate-filled lawlessness. We're for common sense, not radical surgeries on our children without parental consent to say a boy can be a girl. We're for the message of hope. Hope born in the freedom of those who fought to give it to us through their blood, and also through the blood of our Savior, Jesus Christ. Republicans are working to make America great again. Democrats have been trying to run out the clock.
Most people are too lazy to do this, but it saves homeowners a fortune. I worked in construction.
Thank you, Chip. Well, you can see Republicans are united strongly in working to open the government back up. We all voted to prevent a government shutdown. And that bill went through the House weeks ago on almost exclusively a party line vote. And since then, for weeks and weeks, that bill has been in the Senate, where Democrats, led by Chuck Schumer, consistently have voted to shut the government down. And we've said, all this is about is Chuck Schumer trying to appease his most radical base, the most far-left elements of the Democrat Party, the people who have taken over the Democrat Party. Frankly, they've held Chuck Schumer hostage, and so now Chuck Schumer is holding the American people hostage. And this weekend, we got to see on display what that Hate America rally we've been talking about was really all about. You could see some of the signs. These are just a few. But over and over again, you could see signs like 8647. I think everybody knows what that's about. Multiple signs like that advocating for the death of our president. And where are the Chuck Schumers of the world calling that out? They didn't call it out. They actually went and celebrated with those people that are advocating for the murder of President Trump and other Republicans. It's insanity. Yet that's where the Democrat Party in Washington has gone. Most Democrats around the country don't buy into that far-left radical socialist base that Chuck Schumer's catering to. And that's why so many are walking away.
Did you see him?
from that
He was
party.
dancing
But in the
in front of
meantime, that's
Epstein's
who
house.
is controlling the Democrat Party here in the United States Senate and in Congress. And that's why we continue to be at this stalemate. Not because there's some ability for us to come together and
He was literally dancing in front of Epstein's house.
find a common ground. We've been trying. We had a provision in the working families tax cut that would have lowered premiums for families, healthcare premiums, by 11%. It was scored by the Congressional Budget Office to do that. 11% reduction in premiums for families. And you might ask, well, why is that not law of the land? Because it passed the House. But when it got over to the Senate, it was Senate Democrats who went to the parliamentarian and fought to get that provision removed because they don't care about lowering premiums for families. They really don't, and they showed it over and over again. What do they care about? They care about catering to the most radical elements of their base. You could see the sponsors, and it's been mentioned before, the Communist Party of America, the Socialist Party. Well, that's who's taken over the Democrat Party. It's not who America is. America is not a socialist nation. It's surely not a communist nation. But the Democrat Party here in Washington is trying to pull the country down that rat hole. We've seen it over and over again. That experiment's been tried time and time again, and you could go look at the scrap heap of history to see other countries where it's failed. Why won't they go protest over in those countries and just be a part of those countries where it's already failed? But they come here and they lie about our president. They call him a king, where ironically, they're also advocating for the death of that democratically elected president. And so you've got to see it all on full display. And hopefully that's what Chuck Schumer needed to go through to show them that he's still keeping the government shut down to appease that group. But now that rally is over. And the pain that he has inflicted on American families continues. It's time for Chuck Schumer to end the pain he's inflicting on millions of American families. And finally, vote. Just 5 Senate Democrats need to come together to vote to open this government back up again. We still have big differences, and we'll be negotiating our differences in the weeks ahead. But it's time he releases the American people from this crazy experiment. With that, bring up our whip, Tom Emmer.
As the speaker said, we're now on day 20 of the Democrat shutdown. For everyone tuning in, here's a quick review of everything that's happened in the last 3 weeks. Republicans did our jobs. We passed a clean, nonpartisan government funding bill that Democrats supported just 6 months ago and passed 13 times under the Biden administration. 11 times now, Democrats have refused to pass our clean CR, shutting the government down in the process and forcing Americans to pay the price. In order to simply turn the lights back on, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries have demanded $1.5 trillion in new spending for things like taxpayer-funded health care for illegals and cutting $50 billion from our rural health care fund. They've taken the American people hostage while pointing fingers at us for refusing to concede to their absurd wish list of demands. But Republicans have been clear. We will not negotiate under hostage conditions, nor will we pay a ransom. The Democrats' position is totally unreasonable. It's hypocritical. And it's pure partisan politics in a desperate attempt to score points with the radical, pro-terrorist wing of their party. Now that their Hate America rally is over, I hope that at least 5 Senate Democrats will finally do the right and responsible thing by breaking ranks with Chuck Schumer, passing our clean CR, and reopening the government. If they continue to refuse, we're going to continue to hold them to account. And I hope members of the media in this room are going to do the same. With that, I turn it back to our speaker, Mike Johnson.
Okay, a few questions.
Good morning. Good morning, thank you. We understand concerns about air traffic control. We understand that they're going to lay off workers at the they're going to lay off workers at the Nuclear Security Administration. What keeps you up at night about what parts of this federal government are not operating?
Well, those are two good examples. The question is, when the administration is required to triage federal spending, they have to look and evaluate what are the most essential and what are the less essential functions of the federal government. And they look at policy, personnel, and all these offices. But the things that concern me the most are TSA, for example. I mean, you're right. We are shorthanded already with air traffic controllers, with TSA agents, keeping the airports safe and our flights safe. We cannot afford this nonsense. And I think the Democrats in their heart of hearts know that. When you're talking about nuclear deterrence, our former colleague Brandon Williams was a congressman from New York, and now he's now been confirmed, and he's one of the people in charge of nuclear deterrence in the United States. As a former officer on a nuclear submarine. He brings a lot of experience to that job, and he came to sit down with me a few days ago, last week. And he said, I just want to articulate for you how serious this is in terms of national defense. And we didn't get into the classified parts there. We weren't in the SCIF, but suffice it to say that every day that the government is shut down, it is a danger to the American people. We're in a nuclear arms race with adversaries right now. It can't be any more serious than this. China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, you've seen what they're up to. America is the last great superpower on the planet, but we have to maintain that status. And if we get behind on funding or personnel or any of these projects that we're involved in that are at a level that we can't talk about in here, it's very serious. So you have every function of the federal government that is being adversely affected. Of course, it's troops. We got the troops paid, thankfully, in the middle of this month, because the president did heroic work. They found money within DOD that they could use on a temporary basis. But that money is going to be exhausted. You can't have the troops unpaid. You can't have Border Patrol agents unpaid. They've got to defend the country. And this is not a game. And that's why you see us so frustrated up here every day. Again, I'm going to reiterate what we said earlier. This is the first time in history that we've been in this situation. There has never been a party that shut down the entire government, or a party that shut down, over a clean CR for nothing but political partisan purposes. Their rally illustrated exactly what we've been saying for the last 20 days. It's about politics, and it's disgusting. Yes, sir.
Speaker Johnson, you say that the Democrats had a Hate America rally, but what does it say that the President of the United States over the weekend released a video of him pooping on the American people?
The President uses social media to make the point. You could argue he's probably the most effective person who's ever used social media for that. He is using satire to make a point. He is not calling for the murder of his political opponents, and that's what these people are doing. I mean, they're in one of these photos. I think there's a picture of the president hanging in effigy by a noose on one of these, the one on the far end. I mean, it's unconscionable. Look, America is built on the idea of free speech. You have the right to protest. Of course, we jealously guard that. I mean, Chip and I are attorneys. We've defended that right in the courts. But what they're doing right now is different. They are trying to incite violence. It's not funny. You don't mock a president who has already had 2 failed assassination attempts on his life. This is not a game. And the idea that communists would be supporting this is unconscionable to us. Look, when we give tours of the House chamber, and we bring in constituents, and we point out all the historical facts and images around the building, I always start with "In God We Trust," which of course is right above the rostrum of the speaker's podium. And if you look in the visitor's guide to the House chamber, it says on page 14, when was that put there? Well, it's put there in the early 60s, 1961, as I recall. And it says in the guide that it was put there, Congress voted to put that there as a rebuke to the Cold War era Soviets. Why? Because their philosophy, that's what it says, a rebuke to their philosophy. Their philosophy was Marxism. Marxism begins with the premise that there is no God. It is antithetical to who we are as Americans. The Declaration of Independence says we're created by God and He's the one that gave us our rights. It is in God whom we trust. That is the national motto. That's what America's built on. What those people are advocating for is at its essence un-American. And when they go the next step and they call for violence on political officials in an environment that is already a heightened threat environment, it's dangerous stuff. They had the right to do it. Congratulations, they didn't burn any buildings down. That's a big achievement for the left, to have some kind of gathering where they don't have a loot-in and riots and burn a building down. There was, I think, some in Portland, they threw bottles and bricks and stuff at the ICE facility, because that's what they do for fun now out there. But, you know, they had a free speech event. Congratulations. But you need to look past that and look at what it is they're advocating for openly, and it's really scary stuff.
Mr. Speaker, we know Senator.
How long before I see results with military training? Day 3, your body will hurt. Day 7, your eyes will change.
Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays said over the weekend that she plans to file a lawsuit against you for sponsoring ROUNDTABLE. Have you or your office spoken to her in the last couple of days about that, and what's your response to that?
Oh my goodness. Okay, yes. So there, yet another Democrat politician from Arizona is trying to get national publicity. So now it's the state AG who's going to sue me because Grijalva is not yet sworn in. Let me go through this again for you and have some updates. First of all, I'm following the Pelosi precedent. I was on some of the Sunday shows and was asked about this because this is all they have to talk about right now. When Julia Letlow was elected under very similar circumstances to fill the seat of her deceased husband, who passed away tragically by COVID, Nancy Pelosi, Speaker Pelosi at the time, took 25 days to administer the oath of office to her. It wasn't just Julia. The Pelosi precedent extends even further, because when Pat Ryan and Joe Sempolinski were elected during an August recess, they waited 21 days to administer the oath to those two rep-elects because they were not in session. We are not in legislative session. The chronology is important. Rep. Grijalva won her race in I think it was the last week of September, after we had already gone out of session. So I will administer the oath to her, I hope on the first day we come back, legislative session. I'm willing and anxious to do that. In the meantime, instead of TikTok video, she should be serving her constituents. She could be taking their calls. She could be directing them, trying to help them through the crisis that the Democrats have created by shutting down the government. Oh, and by the way, I also did find out this little tidbit that should be interesting to you. When a rep-elect comes in on a special election in particular, it is up to the leaders of her party in the House to give them one of the first things they do is reach out, what we do, is reach out, majority leader, or reaches out to the rep-elect and says, hey, welcome, congratulations. Here's all the things you need to do. Here's the office of the chief administrative officer of the House, and they will help you get all of your computers set up and your passwords and all the rest. That call was apparently never made by Rep. Grijalva, and I don't know if the Democrat leader's office didn't inform her of that. But I found out this morning that the person who runs that office in the chief administrative office is on furlough because they voted to shut the government down. And so that person didn't reach out affirmatively, but now it's been sorted out, and I'm told they're going to her office today because she made a TikTok video saying that she couldn't use her computers. Well, she'll be able to use her computers now. Okay, she has 16 staffers. They need to be taking calls. They need to be helping their constituents, just as Republicans are, helping them navigate the chaos that is created by Democrats.
Are we not fast approaching the point where this CR doesn't buy you time for appropriations?
Well, I would defer to my appropriator buddy up here, but here's the thing. The appropriators have been doing great work. Even during the shutdown. subcommittees among themselves and to get the next appropriation bills ready for passage. Is the time eroding quickly? Yes. Is it dangerous?
Yo, what up, Joe?
Yes, because we have very pressing matters that we need to handle, but we can't do it when the Senate is stalling all of that, stopping it. We passed 12 separate appropriations bills through the House committee. They've done their work. 3 of them off the floor. 3 bills off the Senate floor. They don't match up exactly, so we're going to conference committee on that. We have to finish that process. We have to rebuild the muscle memory for regular order, because that is how we serve as good stewards of the American taxpayers. We're anxious to do that. We hope the Democrats will see the light. We hope that you will ask them the tough questions this week. Why in the heck are you doing this? What is the point? What is the purpose? And don't let them say it's about Obamacare subsidies, because that was always going to be the subject of debate internally and across the aisle between the caucuses and amongst everybody in the month of October. And they are now eating up the clock for us to have the thoughtful debate about reforms and things that might be necessary, if indeed that's going to be extended. So it's on them. You need to ask them the tough questions. We're here to do the work. We'll continue to do it. Thank you.
Good work, Mark.
Run, Forrest, run.
No, you didn't.
So little happened.
Yeah, and that was the most interesting way.
Nice job on the photo.
That's great. That's great.
Good stuff.
Everybody good if we grab the posters? Everybody
You good?
You good?
Yeah,
Perfect, thanks.
All right. So here's what I got. We're waiting for Trump to come on. You know how he is, though. He takes forever. But while we're waiting, I got Christy Noem live talking about the DHS in Florida. So let's get to that. All right, here we go, guys. Sorry, this is live also.
To what the work that President Trump is conducting across the country to make families and their communities safer, but also what this office in particular has focused on, the results that they have delivered, but then also what the state of Florida and the
Dallas is your favorite person?
To the federal government as far as incarcerating criminal, illegal aliens and bringing them to justice. Today marks 9 months since President Trump has been in office and since he began his work to restore American safety for our families that live here. What he has accomplished for the American people is nothing short of extraordinary. We appreciate what he has done to make us safe again, to secure our borders, and to make sure that he's protecting our people. Since January, the Department of Homeland Security has arrested over 480,000 criminal illegal aliens. 70% of those individuals have criminal charges against them or have been convicted of those criminal charges. Across the country, we're making communities safer so that families can thrive and they can prosper and they can enjoy the kind of freedom that this country was established to provide. Unfortunately, many times we see the news distorting the truth and not bringing the real facts of the stories to the American people, and that is one of the reasons why we're here today, is to make sure that we're focused on what this office has done, our HSI officers, our ICE officers, the criminals that they've taken off the streets here in this city and also this state, and what we can do to get many of these items like you see on the table in front of me out of our communities. You see in front of us illegal rifles, handguns. You see drugs that have been taken off of our streets that are saving the lives of Americans every single day. I want to speak directly to the American people today and remind them and recall the fact that we are focused on the worst of the worst, bringing these individuals to justice. We're not going to let individuals terrorize our streets anymore, and we're not going to let them make victims out of families that live in this country. I'll give you some examples of individuals that were brought to justice here in Sarasota and in this area. The first one I'll talk about is a convicted murderer whose name is Eric Carlos Artiles Ramos, an illegal alien who was from Cuba. He had a prior removal order in 2008, and now because of the work of this office, he is off the streets. He was also previously convicted of kidnapping and carjacking. We also have another individual, Oscar Alfredo Retena Marroquin, an illegal alien from El Salvador. He was convicted of sexual assault against a child and in 1995, and he was also arrested for DUI. He has been deported twice before, in 1999 and in 2019. Reentry after deportation, I'll remind all of you, is a felony. The next individual is Arturo Sanchez Morales. He's an illegal alien from Mexico. He was arrested for driving drunk, and he's already been deported once before. He re-entered, which is a felony, and was issued a final order of removal in 2016. He had previously been arrested for burglary as well, for possession of cocaine and larceny, and has convictions for multiple DUIs and lewd acts against a minor. And again, I'll talk about Leilis Ronaldo Benaro Zahler, who is an individual from Honduras who's been in this country illegally, and he has a conviction for domestic battery. He'd been deported twice before, in 2011 and in 2017. These individuals are just a handful of people that have been in this country creating victims out of American citizens that now those families no longer have to worry about. Not only have they been brought into and incarcerated, but they're going to be brought to justice and pay for the crimes that they've committed. Every single day, our law enforcement officers put their lives at risk to protect the American people. Every single day, they get up and they go do their jobs to make sure that American families can live the lives that they've dreamed of since they were young. The left's anti-cop rhetoric has led to 1,000% increase in violence against our law enforcement officers. We have to stop the rhetoric that is allowing individuals the cover that they want to perpetuate violence against those who enforce our laws. Last month, we had an individual open fire at an ICE facility, and we also saw victims from that attack that happened, not just against ICE agents, but also about detainees that were there at that facility. That individual, when he fired upon the building, created some victims. We lost 2 lives there. 3 individuals were hurt, and 2 died later on after that event. The suspect had anti-ICE written on the ammunition and on his bullet casings, proving that he had targeted against individuals that were working to keep our streets safe. Criminals are now even placing bounties on our law enforcement officers. This last month, the Department of Homeland Security arrested a criminal illegal alien and a Latin Kings gang member who placed a bounty on our U.S. Border Patrol Chief Greg Bovino. Still, they keep pressing on, and we've seen as well individuals on TikTok and other apps making threats against our law enforcement officers, putting bounties out on their head, and we will bring all of those individuals to justice. We will continue to bring murderers and rapists, those who perpetuate violence, pedophiles, gang members in our communities. We will go after them, bring them to justice, and we will save lives. The American people see this, and they see that President Trump is focused on making sure that our streets are safe and that our families have opportunities to raise their children in safe communities. In fact, recent polls have shown that 54% of Americans want illegals to be brought into justice, and they want to deport those who are in this country illegally. But 78% of Americans want these criminal illegal aliens brought to justice. That's because the American people understand the benefits of having law and order.
Okay, if there's one AI site builder you need to meet, it's this dope tech from Wix.
Borders, but we're a nation of laws, and those laws are enforced. To the brave men and women of ICE and HSI and the law enforcement that are partnering with us, thank you. Thank you for all that you do to protect our country. Thank you for risking your lives for the American people and being willing to go out and stand for what is right, stand for law and order, and the American people are extremely grateful for that. To everyone else out there, I would ask you to please thank a law enforcement officer if you see them today. Cook them a meal for their family, support them, give them a word of encouragement. It's been 9 months since President Trump has been in office, and he's made an incredible difference for the American people. Let's make sure that those individuals who go out every single day and keep our streets safe, that they get the opportunity to be thanked for that as well. And with that, I will open it up for any questions that you may have. Yes.
Thank you so much for coming.
Mhm.
I understand that ICE is working with local law enforcement agencies, including Florida Highway Patrol, to carry out much of this enforcement, and that a lot of, at least here in Florida, a lot of the arrests are being made through picking up these folks for traffic infractions, for
Right.
example, holding them in jail. Can you talk about that partnership and how information is communicated between local law enforcement and ICE?
Well, it's been fantastic to see the partnerships that we've had here in Florida, in this community, but also throughout the entire state. We have a program called 287G, which allows local law enforcement agencies to partner with us on enforcement activities. And that has been very beneficial to making sure that we're out there working together, cooperative, bringing people to justice, and then making those law enforcement officers involved in helping keep their communities safe as well. And we're grateful for that. Florida has been, I think, the state that has provided the most law enforcement agreements under the 287G than any other state. And it shows that they recognize the importance of bringing individuals to justice that have convicted crimes against the people that live in their communities, but also ways that we can support our federal government in the work that we do as well, as far as enforcing our immigration laws, but also making sure that these dangerous terrorists and criminals and gang members are brought to justice and removed out of our country. Yes.
Why do you feel it's necessary to come all the way to Sarasota, Florida, to make these announcements today? Considering this is just four of many arrests going on nationwide, and why specifically Sarasota versus going to Chicago or Portland?
Well, I've been to Chicago. And I've been to Portland and focused on supporting those law enforcement officers and operations there. I'm in Sarasota today because people don't get to hear the media cover these individuals that have been removed off of the streets, the good work that law enforcement officers have already done. Many times when I turn on the news and listen to the networks, they're not covering the victims anymore that we've lost because of these crimes. They're not covering the individuals that have been brought to justice. Instead, they're trying to demonize our law enforcement officers. So to talk about these individuals that have been taken off the streets and show how much safer the American people are, we can show that that work can continue. These individuals that I spoke about today are not on the streets creating more victims. There's still individuals out there, though, that we need to bring to justice. And this is a reminder of the work that we do, but that we need to continue that work and let these law enforcement officers know that they're appreciated.
To maximize your investment in time to come to Florida, you meet with, say, the sheriffs here who signed up with the program you just mentioned. Also, we're not very far from Alligator Alcatraz or Deportation Depot. Are you going to be possibly visiting there?
I have been to Alligator Alcatraz. I have visited it. I have not seen Deportation Depot yet, but we're grateful for those partnerships with the state of Florida. That has helped us with detainment centers that will allow us to host these individuals until their due process is finished and they can be removed from our country. So we're grateful for that. In fact, Alligator Alcatraz was the first project that we had with the state as far as putting together these beds, and we've had several other states now that have shared these agreements with us as well. So in Indiana, Nebraska, other states that have partnered, and will continue to do that because it's more efficient for the taxpayers, but it also meets the needs that we have for bed space until individuals can be removed.
While on the subject of travel, we received some criticism about the recent purchase of two business jets made by Gulfstream to the tune of $200 million going to the Coast Guard, which is one of your departments. It was stated by the two representatives about their questioning about this. They said that your frequent appearances at ongoing operations, which require the diversion of resources to focus on your security, appears to be unjustified. What is your comment to that?
These aircraft are Coast Guard aircraft to replace 25-year-old airplanes that are necessary for the mission of the Coast Guard. Congress appropriated the dollars and paid for them in the big, beautiful bill, and we're grateful that we're able to move forward and make sure that force design 2028 for the Coast Guard is mission fulfilled and they can continue to serve our country.
Elisa,
not just in the
what's
search and
all
rescue mission,
lies?
but
What's
also
up,
cooperating
Kevin?
with our
What's up,
Department
John
of War,
Deere?
and they're
Del,
helping us
dude.
in incredible ways with drug interdiction and bringing these
What's
cartels
going
to
on,
justice
brother?
as well.
Billy, hope you're having a good day, man.
You're saying that working families are afraid to go
I
home?
like this
I think they should be in this
information
country
personally.
legally.
We're
They
waiting to
have
hear
no
Trump
fear
talk.
whatsoever if
He's
they're in
doing
this country abiding by
he's
our
doing
laws. And that is
a
the wonderful thing about
bilateral
America.
press
Everybody
conference
is
with the
treated equally. We
Australian
don't pick
Prime
and choose
Minister after
who the
this
law
around
applies
11
to and who it
a.m.
doesn't.
So
So
probably
individuals have the
when
opportunity
this
every day,
ends.
if they're here illegally, to go home. Go home to your country and come the right way. If they wait until we detain them and we have to remove them ourselves, they'll never get the chance to come back to America.
Send them away. Get them gone.
Bye-bye.
Can I turn up the stream volume?
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Can you not hear the questions and stuff, or what?
It's hard to hear the stream. It's hard to hear you. It's a little low.
Hold on.
No, I think that our law enforcement officers are doing everything appropriately and correct to make sure people are brought to justice. And that's the opportunity that we've given individuals from day one, was that if they're in this country illegally, that they can come to us, we will pay them to leave this country $1,000 and buy them a plane ticket to leave. People get to keep their children with them. If they've committed a crime against individuals in this country, they will be brought
It
to
keeps
justice. They will
turning
be
my mic down.
We've been very clear about that.
I knew it.
Is that better?
That in the field
Yeah, it's way better.
are out there every day, still doing the job.
It keeps
The
turning
stream's
my
still low.
mic down
That
again.
they are safe, that they are doing it appropriately, and that they get to go home to their kids and their family members too. I think most people look around a room full of law enforcement officers, and sometimes the media doesn't tell the story that they all have families too, and that they deserve to go home that night and tuck their kids into bed, and to be able to get up.
Yeah, this is just as loud as she gets.
To pay their bills as well. That's what today is. 9 months of law enforcement officers finally getting to do their job again. Finally getting to do what they took an
Did
oath
it
to
turn
do,
me
which
down
was
again?
uphold the law and
No,
to be
you're up
fair
still.
and just in how they do that. And I'm so proud of the work that they've done.
So what happens to these four individuals? Are they going to be deported immediately?
They will be prosecuted for their crimes first
See,
in this country.
that's just
and
their
serve their
recording, man.
convictions if they're convicted, which many of them have long histories of criminal activity, and then they will be deported to their home countries.
That's her recording.
Well, it depends on how that arrangement is
Trump's not
negotiated.
gonna
If you
start
remember,
right
we
at
work with the
11.
Department
That's
of
just
State
how he works.
on every single individual, on how we organize those travel documents, how we work with countries, and how they take their citizens back home.
How's your recruitment effort going to hire 10,000 new agents?
Yeah, we had over 175,000 applicants for our 10,000 new ICE agents. We have many of them that are already out on the job. They've completed their training. We also have huge recruitment for not just ICE agents and HSI, but our Secret Service law enforcement officers, our CBP officers. All of those recruitment efforts are through the roof because I think of the individuals that are excited about defending the homeland, protecting this country, and making sure that they have the ability to go out and to do a job that they can be proud of. Yes.
There's been a lot of conversation and talk about the alleged lack of transparency with regards to ICE releasing information about its operations. Can you speak to the transparency or lack thereof with regards to current operations?
Can you hear that?
No.
I'm not certain about those accusations. We are conducting
So you can't hear the
just how we always have been. Exactly how law
questions and stuff?
enforcement does
No.
investigations, how we do operations.
Alright. Well, then there's
Many
no
of those
point.
times, those operations need to be secure, but we have not changed our protocols in how we uphold the law and how we bring
There's no
people to
point
justice
in playing it if you
based
can't hear
on
it.
any kind of policy that's been put in place under this
Trump
administration.
should be talking any minute.
You also talk about the communication between ICE and local law enforcement agents that
We would love to have local law enforcement across the country participating with us. Many times that's not true. Here in Sarasota, it's been fantastic. Here in Florida, it's been amazing. But you go into other communities and other states, and many times those governors are political. Those leaders in those towns, Portland's a great example of the mayor who chooses to play politics instead of keeping his citizens safe. Governor Pritzker in Illinois is putting his people in danger every day by going against us and not working with us to make sure that we're detaining individuals who have criminal charges against them or have been convicted and then re-releasing them out on the streets. We're starting to see better partnership out of some law enforcement officers who recognize that their citizens feel differently than their political leaders. Their citizens recognize that they want their streets safer. We saw that in Washington, D.C., that people that experience the freedom of being able to walk down a street, go to a restaurant again, be able to, conduct normal life and let their kids play in a playground, they enjoyed it, and they let their political leaders know that, and they've cooperated with us more. We continue to have targeted operations in many, many cities.
I gifted my husband these pants, and now he wears them everywhere. Meet mesh irons, the most flattering everyday pants.
Remaining, such as Portland, Chicago. We're in Memphis as well. We're going into San Francisco at the direction of the president as well. We're going to continue to make sure we're focused not just in those cities that we hear about on the news, but also cities like Sarasota, that we make sure that law enforcement officers in every single community get the chance to continue to get these criminals off of their streets.
Is it true, though, the majority of arrests or detentions that are happening are people who are
Here.
Well, what would you call a low-level crime? I
I'm
would say
gonna
anybody
go
who's been
ahead.
victimized by somebody who's committed a crime.
If you
it's
guys
significant to
can't
them.
hear it, I'm
It's
gonna go ahead and
That's
play this
significant if they end up.
until Trump talks. He should be coming on anytime. I'm gonna play this instead. This is live also. This is them addressing the ceasefire. Hold on, guys. Oops, I turned off the volume.
Diplomacy Directorate here in the Prime Minister's office. I'm going to take a few questions after a couple of very brief points to share with you. Just make sure you put your questions in the chat of the Zoom with your name and your outlet. Today, it's Monday, October 20th, and today is day 745 since Hamas kidnapped our people and have continued to hold them inside of the Gaza Strip. We open today with deep sorrow, bearing the weight of the most painful news, the loss of our courageous soldiers. Since the war began, 918 IDF heroes have fallen. These are not statistics. These are not faceless people. Each one was a life filled with a promise, a future stolen, a world unto themselves. Major Yaniv Kula was just 26 years old and from Modi'in. He fell in battle in southern Gaza. He was laid to rest this morning in Jerusalem. Also, Staff Sergeant Itai Yavetz was just 21 years old and also from Modi'in.
Is that better, Billy?
Yesterday in the same incident in the southern part of Gaza. He will be laid to rest this afternoon in Modi'in. The Prime Minister spoke for the nation when he sent heartfelt condolences to the families of Yaniv and Itai. He also sent wishes for a speedy recovery to our wounded in that attack and breach of the ceasefire. The Prime Minister said that Yaniv and Itai fought courageously against the Hamas murderers to protect the security of Israel. Their bravery and heroism will be cherished in our hearts forever. May their memory be a blessing. Let me share some details of this Hamas attack you've probably heard about. On Sunday, around 2:30 p.m. Israel time, the IDF announced terrorists fired an anti-tank missile and gunfire towards our troops who were operating to dismantle terrorist infrastructure in the Rafah area, which is all in accordance with the ceasefire agreement. In response to that, the IDF started striking in the Rafah area to eliminate the threat and to dismantle tunnel shafts and military structures for terrorist activities. The blatant violation of the ceasefire agreement led the IDF to respond firmly. Following the violation, the Prime Minister held consultations with the Defense Minister and heads of the security establishment, directing them to take strong action against terrorist targets inside of Gaza. Now, after days of executing their own people and our soldiers who should have never been killed during a ceasefire were dragged into the terrorist barbaric and irresponsible actions, which are the biggest threat to the Israeli and the Palestinian people. After this deadly incident involving our soldiers, we committed to responding forcefully against the brutal rule and thwart Hamas's weakening grip inside of Gaza. Now, around 6 p.m. on Sunday, Israel time, the IDF began a series of strikes against Hamas terror targets inside of southern Gaza. It led to the striking and dismantling of 6 kilometers of underground terrorist infrastructure, which was used by Hamas to advance attacks against the state of Israel. Not only were our soldiers killed in this incident in Rafah, dozens of incidents have been documented by the IDF of terrorists crossing the yellow line, which is where our soldiers were redeployed to under this agreement that Hamas has violated. The state of Israel will not accept any violations of the ceasefire in the Gaza Strip, and the IDF will respond with force to any violation that endangers the security of our soldiers and its citizens. Now, following the series of attacks in response to Hamas violating the ceasefire and attacking our soldiers, around 9 p.m. Sunday Israel time, the IDF began the renewed enforcement of the ceasefire. We will not only continue to uphold the ceasefire agreement, but we will enforce it. Let it be known and understood, we are still demanding for the bodies of our deceased hostages to be returned by the terror organization Hamas. We know Hamas can return them, and we know that Hamas is aware of where they are located. There are 16 deceased hostages that are required to be released under this first phase of this plan. As Hamas continues to make the excuse they cannot locate them, let's make something very clear. Hamas dragged our hostages into Gaza and either murdered them on October 7th or during captivity, with the sole exception of a soldier taken in 2014. No one misplaces people they kidnapped. Any suggestion that Hamas doesn't know where the hostages are is not just an excuse, it's part of their propaganda. Journalists repeating that line should ask themselves whether they're reporting facts or echoing the narrative of a brutal terrorist organization. I can also confirm at this time, Prime Minister Netanyahu met earlier today with Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, on the developments and updates in the region. Vice President J.D. Vance and his wife, Second Lady Usha Vance, will also be visiting Israel for a few days and will be meeting with the Prime Minister. I'll take a few questions right now. Just going through some of these questions. The first one from Joel Pollack from Breitbart News. There is a claim that Hamas did not fire an RPG at the IDF, but rather that soldiers in a bulldozer drove over unexploded ordnance. First off, Joel, I think you're better than that, not to believe these ridiculous lies that Hamas is perpetuating in the media. Let's just talk about the facts that I have right here that I have just told you in this briefing. On Sunday, terrorists carried out an attack of multiple shootings, including an RPG and arm fire in multiple positions, killing 2 of our IDF soldiers. The second thing you should know, Hamas continues to hold our hostages. 16 deceased hostages are still in Gaza right now, held by Hamas, the terror organization. As they agreed to in the first phase of this deal is to release all of our hostages, all 48. There are 16 hostages left in captivity. The third, dozens of incidents of terrorists have crossed the yellow line that have happened so far, the yellow line where our IDF soldiers are redeployed to. And 4, they continue to execute its own civilians. Let's not forget what's happened in the last week here, executions of civilians on the streets in Gaza. And your second question, Joel, Jared Kushner says that Israel must invest in a better life for Palestinians. Israel has said this, and it is completely laid out in the 20-point plan. In order for the Palestinians to have a future inside of Gaza, there can no longer be Hamas. That is strictly outlined there. Hamas will have no part inside of the Gaza Strip. They will be demilitarized. They will be disarmed. Matthew Duran from ABC News Australia. How does the Israeli government respond to accusations from Palestinian health officials in Gaza that the bodies of Palestinians recently handed over by Israeli authorities show signs of torture and mistreatment and have been returned in advanced states of decomposition and without any identification material? I don't have any information to share on that, but I will go back to you and continue to say, if you have any contact with Palestinian health officials, that is Hamas. Let's make that very clear. And you should ask Hamas where the bodies of our 16 hostages are. We are waiting for them to be returned. Lior Soroka from the Washington Post. Have Witkoff and Kushner arrived in Israel? Will they meet with the prime minister? And what is on the agenda for that? So Witkoff, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner did have a meeting with the prime minister today. And that's the information I can provide you on that. And they discussed developments and updates in the region as well.
John, to more consequential issues, Trump's foreign policy successes have been numerous in this second term, and he gave another example of his peace through strength philosophy recently. Have a listen to the president's response when asked about Venezuelan dictator Maduro.
It has been reported that Maduro offered everything in his country, all the natural resources. He even recorded a message to you in English recently, offering mediation. What should we do in order to stop that?
He has offered everything. He's offered everything. You're right. You know why? Because he doesn't want to around with the United States. Thank you, everybody.
John, the Trump administration says it's in a war with narco-terrorist groups from Venezuela, and there's little doubt they want to see regime change in that country. They want to see the dictator toppled.
Yeah, the administration clearly wants regime change. They've been blowing narco boats out of the water. They've got special forces carrying out exercises now very near to Venezuela. And they're right to want regime change. This administration, this regime has been an absolute disaster for the Venezuelan people. They're living in abject poverty and oppression under this socialist or communist rule. And so for the benefit of Venezuelans, yes, we need regime change, but also for the benefit of the United States. Venezuela has the potential to be a great ally of the United States and a real leader in Latin America. Venezuela used to be one of the richest countries in the world, and it can have a bright future if it gets rid of that terrible socialist government.
John, we've had a real insight into the negotiations that led to the historic peace deal. Let's hear from Trump's special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, along with Jared Kushner.
So we got into the room. The lead negotiator was sitting right next to me.
That negotiator was in Doha when the Israelis struck.
Correct.
Hi, Candy.
He survived, but his son was killed. Is that right?
That's right. And we expressed our condolences to him for the loss of his son. He mentioned it. And I told him that I had lost a son, and that we were both members of a really bad club, parents who have buried children.
Witkoff's son, Andrew, died of an opioid overdose at the age of 22.
When Steve and him spoke about their sons, it turned from a negotiation with a terrorist group to seeing two human beings kind of showing a vulnerability with each other.
Is it true that once the deal was agreed to, that the Israelis there at that meeting and the Qataris began to hug each other?
Absolutely. And I thought to myself, I wish the world could have seen it.
That's quite remarkable, John, that personal connections could have an impact on such a momentous deal.
Rita, diplomacy is personal, and it always has been throughout world history. Of course, objective factors matter, force matters, but negotiation is a human process, and it can be an emotional process. And I think Donald Trump really understands that. I think Marco Rubio understands it. And I think Steve Witkoff clearly understands that as well.
What do you make of this peace deal? It is certainly the most significant of the 8 Donald Trump has signed or been a part of in his second term. But the pressure on this to be an enduring peace deal is enormous. Can you see
What's
this
up,
lasting?
DJ?
Can you see the involvement of the Arab world ensuring that this has the best chance to succeed?
Rita, I really don't know. Now that their living hostages have been retrieved, I don't know how much appetite Israel has to go back in there and resume fighting with Hamas. And as far as the other Middle Eastern countries, the other Islamic countries are concerned, I just don't know who in that group has the wherewithal to go into Gaza, go into those tunnels and do battle with terrorists who look like civilians. I think it's very hard to see what the future holds. For now, the Hamas is basically just continuing to oppress people in Gaza. And as long as it stays that way, I'd be surprised if the Israelis do very much about it.
Now, this next story made headlines across the country when a former Doge staffer, Edward Corstein, who was known as Big Balls, he was brutally bashed in DC. His attackers now, John, have dodged jail thanks to Associate Judge Kendra Briggs of the Superior Court of the District of Columbia. This was a Biden-appointed judge that spared the 15-year-old's jail last week. And this has outraged so many on the right, including President Donald Trump and Elon Musk, who posted, "This was a racist verdict by a racist judge. The simple test to apply is if the races had been reversed, the white kids would be in prison, equal justice for all." What do you think about this case, John? Did race play a part in the decision?
Well, it may have, Rita. There's an ideology on the left that America is a racist country, that our criminal justice system is racist, and therefore you have to balance that out by going easy on Black defendants. Now, those premises are not true at all, but it's something that we see again and again and again in these criminal cases. And criminals get put back out on the streets. The reality is that there are a lot of judges who seem to have more sympathy for the criminal defendants than they do for the victims, in particular when those criminal defendants are Black.
Now, before you go, I've got to ask you about former Biden White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre. She has now unleashed on the Democratic Party in her new memoir. She has written about Joe Biden, her boss's dumping, and she did not hold back. She said, "I was angry and sad. I was enraged and heartbroken that this man had given more than 50 years of his life to serving the American people.
Hi, Mimsy. How you
He'd been
doing?
treated
Hey,
poorly
Mimsy.
by members of his own party. It was horrible." John, she explains that she's now an independent because she just could not stomach being a Democrat for a minute longer.
Well, Jean-Pierre may call herself an independent, but I don't think she's going to be voting for any
Oh, we've been
Republicans. I don't
going
think she'll be
for hours.
that independent. But, it's hard for me to have a lot of sympathy for her. She saw Joe Biden every day, and she had to know how badly he had declined late in his administration. I think the Democrats should be faulted not for betraying Joe Biden, which is what Jean-Pierre is upset about, but rather for being willing to run Biden for a second term right up until the moment when he collapsed on the debate stage, even though they knew that he was not capable of carrying out the duties of the office. That's the real scandal here.
That is, and she's still covering for him. She still seems to be under the impression that the whole world doesn't know about that cognitive decline, because she did lie about it over and over again. So many times got up there and said, just
I
he
like
was the
this
sharpest
chick.
person in the room and he was outworking
Sometimes
everybody in
they
the
get out of
administration.
they get too much.
John
Right.
Heinrich, thank you so much for your time
Right.
tonight.
If you live in an Ohio zip code and have 0 DUIs
Oh, yeah?
in the last 5 years, listen.
Oh, yeah.
The hope and optimism surrounding the ceasefire in Gaza is being tested this morning. In just the past few hours, Israel has announced it will close the Rafah border crossing in Gaza due to Hamas's failure to release the bodies of all dead hostages.
That's
According to
smoke.
Reuters, the terror group will release the remains of 4 more hostages today, but claim they don't know the location of all remaining bodies. The decision by Israel is being met with criticism because it will limit the amount of aid heading into the enclave. But Tel Aviv has notified the UN that only 300 aid trucks will
For
be
real?
allowed into Gaza
Wrong
tomorrow.
one
That's
or
half the
something.
promised amount. Donald Trump has
Already
called on
did.
Hamas to release all remaining
I
bodies this
smoked
morning.
it. Oh,
Posted
no, I got
on
smoked.
Truth Social, all 20 hostages are back and feeling as good as can be expected. A big burden has been lifted, but the job is not done, he said. The dead have not been returned. As promised, Phase 2 begins right now. President DJT, he said. Adam Parsons has more now from
I
Jerusalem.
think it was going to suck.
Israel has responded pretty strongly by saying that the Rafah crossing will remain closed tomorrow. We don't know whether it means tomorrow or whether that means indefinitely, but that is a very important entry and exit point. They've also said they're going to reduce by half the number of aid trucks coming in, and also say that no fuel and gas is going to be allowed in unless it's for humanitarian specific purposes. These are pretty swinging decisions to take. The question is whether or not they are a token or whether these are signs of a significant change of heart. They're saying this is because of Hamas not returning the bodies in both of these cases. So these are both linked to that. Both sides are alleging breaches of the ceasefire agreement. It's almost as if until Donald Trump left town, everyone was feeling pretty good about this deal. Now, cold reality has come to bite, and the fact is that the Israelis and Hamas don't just mistrust each other, they loathe each other. We've also had 45 bodies, Palestinian prisoners' bodies being returned to Gaza by Israel. No real explanation of who these people are, how they died, where they died. Haven't even come back with names, just numbers. So although this process is starting, it is starting amid an atmosphere of ill will. The Israelis appear to have killed some civilians. Frankly, it is impossible to determine whether or not these people have crossed the line, whether they've been given a warning or whether they've been shot by accident or even deliberately. I mean, this is absolute one person's word against another. You'll never find the truth of that. The ceasefire is holding. That is the good news, but it is being very sorely tested.
And while Donald Trump has returned to the US now, in the past few minutes he's spoken in Washington about the need for Hamas to disarm, I should say, during a cabinet meeting.
If they don't disarm, we will disarm them. They know I'm not playing games, okay? Now, we did something monumental. We got the hostages back. That was the first thing we had to do, above all else, get the hostages back. Now, they misrepresented because we were told they had 26, 24 of dead hostages, if we can use those terms. And it seems as though they don't have that because we're talking about a much lesser number. But that's a very tough subject. I want them back. That's what they said. I want them back. Also, they said they were going to disarm. And initially speaking, they needed, they did take out a couple of gangs that were very bad, very, very bad gangs, and they did take them out, and they killed a number of gang members. And that didn't bother me much, to be honest with you. That's okay. It's a couple of very bad gangs. It's no different than other countries. Like Venezuela sent their gangs into us, and we took care of those gangs. We have Washington, D.C., is one of the safest cities in the country. It was one of the worst cities in the country if you go back just a little while ago, right? Now it's safe. You can walk to work. Isn't it nice? But we have told them we want to disarm, and they will disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. And it'll happen quickly and perhaps violently. But they will disarm. Do you understand me?
Yes. You say
because
quickly.
everyone says, oh, well, they won't disarm. They will disarm. And I spoke to Hamas, and I said, you're going to disarm, right? Yes, sir, we're going to disarm. That's what they told me. They will disarm or we will disarm them. Got it?
So that was Donald Trump a moment ago, very strong on that this morning, and he's still taking questions during this cabinet meeting at the White House right now, so he's just taking some questions too. So let's go back to Donald Trump.
In fact, I was thinking about giving them trade punishment through tariffs because of what they did. And I may do that. I think unbelievably disrespectful. Spain, the only one out of all the countries in NATO, the only one that said that is Spain. And I think that's, I think they should be punished for that. Yes.
On the government shutdown, you have the money to pay the troops on October 15th. Okay. How is
I actually have a man who is a very wealthy person will know that when I tell you this, who called a donor, a great gentleman, and he said, if there's any money necessary, shortfall, for the paying of the troops, then I will pay it, meaning he will pay it. How about that? I said, look, we're not going to need it. We're going to take care of our troops. But this was a position that's being forced upon us by Democrats. And all they have to do is just sign a piece of paper saying we're going to keep it going the way it is. You know, there's nothing. It's not like it shouldn't even be an argument. They've signed it many times before. I don't want to bore you with the fact that Schumer said 100 times you should never close up government. But Schumer's a weakened politician. I mean, he's going to finish his career as a failed politician. He's a failed politician. He's allowed the radical left to take over the Democrat Party. So if they write books about that, if they write books about him, they're going to have to say that his career ended by allowing the radical left to take over the party. I mean, I won an election in a landslide because people are not into the radical left, and the Democrat Party is. People didn't want to see men playing in women's sports. They didn't want to see transgender for everybody. They didn't want to see all of the different things that they do that's so crazy. Open borders. I mean, the worst thing that he did to us, not inflation, because we fixed inflation. Prices are way down. I don't know if you saw that gasoline went to 58 just now. Did you see what's going on with gasoline?
We track that.
No, $58 a barrel.
Yeah, we track that.
Nobody can believe it. I'm very proud of that. You know why? Because we're pumping like we've never pumped before. Because if you get the gas price down, everything else comes down. It's very simple. And he went away from my policies, and you had the greatest inflation. The last administration had the greatest inflation in the history of our country. And now, as you know, groceries are down. It's all down.
But on the shutdown, are you settling in for is this going to be a long term? Are we looking months?
All they have to do is just vote to extend. We don't need it. We're not saying we want money. We don't. What we need is a right to extend. They want a right to extend, but they want $1.5 trillion so they can give it away to illegal immigrants, the people that are invading your cities. And many of these people, for whatever reason, I mean, I understood this. I called it a long time ago. These countries are run by people I know, friends of mine. Like, I know this gentleman. I hope you haven't said, he probably did too. Why not? They send up their worst people. They send up people that are criminals. They send up people from jails. And at best, the best ones they send up are people that don't work very hard and that are on a social form of welfare. And they're sending those people into the United States. I don't blame them. I'm angry at them, but I don't blame them. But I'm really angry at Biden and Kamala and that group of lunatics for allowing it to happen, because it's the hardest thing. Now, you know, we're sending them out. It's incredible the job that Christie and Tom Homan and the whole group is doing. But we shouldn't have to be doing that. We're doing a lot of work on getting people out of here. Tren de Aragua has caused tremendous damage, and our soldiers are great. You know, our soldiers are now based on merit. They're not based on woke, because we won the case in the Supreme Court, which was the bravest case. I have such respect for the Supreme Court because of what they did with merit, because our country was built on merit. Countries are destroyed on woke. You know, I made a statement, and I hated to make it because it sounded bad, but everything turns to you know what when it goes woke. You remember the term. I don't like to use it because you might have some children listening, but it turns bad. And no, we have the hottest country right now anywhere in the world. That's why he's here. That's why every other country wants to meet here too. But we only have so many hours in the day and days in the week. But get the hottest country. Think of it. We were a dead country a year and a half ago. And now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. It's pretty good. Did a good job. Okay, any other questions?
Would you like to visit Argentina soon? There is an invitation for that.
What does that mean?
Do you like to visit Argentina soon?
I do. I would love to. I'm just a little busy. I would love to. I'd love to go to Argentina. I'd like to be like Biden. I'd like to go to the beach. You know? My legs are not quite as thin as his. My legs are slightly heavier. My arms are slightly larger. My body is a little bit larger than his. I'm not sure it would be appreciated on the beach, but I'm not going to take a chance. You won't see me in a bathing suit. You won't see a bathing suit sitting on a beach in Argentina, falling down, not being able to lift a 3-ounce chair, meant for old people to lift, and he couldn't lift it, so we had a problem. He spent too much time on a beach. Somebody told him that he looked good in a bathing suit. And you'd see this guy on the beach all the time. I never quite understood it. Steve, go ahead.
Could you preview your meeting with Ukraine President Zelensky on Friday? You expect to talk about weapons? Is there going to be a package?
Interesting meeting going on. Look, I'm very disappointed because Vladimir and I had a very good relationship. Probably still do. I don't know why he continues with this war. This war has been so bad for him. He's going into 4 years of a war that should have beaten. He should have won that war in 1 week. He's now going to soon be into his 4th year. He's lost 1.5 million soldiers, probably close. Certainly in terms of wounded and no legs and no arms and all of the things that happen in horrible wars. It's a horrible war. That's the biggest thing that's happened since World War II in terms of death. It's bigger than any of them. I settled 8 of them. The biggest is that in terms of death. Incredible. I think India, Pakistan had great potential too. We did a great job of that one. But he's got to really settle this war. And you know, they have long lines waiting for gasoline in Russia right now, right? They have long lines. Who thought that was going to happen? And all of a sudden his economy is going to collapse. And I'd like to see him do well. I mean, I had a very good relationship with Vladimir Putin, but he just doesn't want to end that war. And I think it's making him look very bad. He could end it. He could end it quickly. And I have to tell you, I give credit because who would think that Ukraine could have fought Russia for 4 years to essentially a standstill? Now, there has been some early, you know, before they knew what the hell was happening, because it happened quick. Biden should have never let that happen. That's a war that should have never happened, but it did. But it's not making Russia look good, I will tell you that.
Will you tomahawks in Ukraine?
We'll be talking about Ukraine, yeah. I mean, I have the president coming in on Friday, and I know what he has to say. He wants weapons. He would like to have tomahawks. Everyone else wants tomahawks. And we have a lot of tomahawks. Tomahawk is a... Do you need any tomahawks in Argentina? You need them for your opposition, I guess, because see, in this country, they'd use tomahawks for the opposition. I don't do that. I'm much nicer. The Democrats would use them if they had the chance. They're sick people. Go ahead.
President, are you worried that this plan with Argentina can fail?
Anything can fail. Anything can fail. You never know. That's why I say Putin should do something about the war, because so far, I mean, it's turned out to be very bad for him. But anything can, so this plan can fail, sure it can fail, but it's got a better chance, I would say, Scott, it's got a better chance of success than failure. And if it's successful, it's an unbelievable success. It can transform your country into greatness. It's got a great chance. We'd like to give it a chance. Anything can fail, but we'd like to give it a chance. And we think, because he's made so much progress. I mean, the work that he's done over the last 4 years is incredible. And it would be a shame to lose that progress. He's very close to having a big success.
Mr. President, will you consider removing new restrictions on the press that report at the Pentagon? And have you spoken to Secretary Hegseth about this?
I have, yeah. Well, he's finding, I think I can speak for him. I'll let him speak for himself, but I think he finds the press to be very disruptive in terms of world peace and maybe security for our nation. Press is very dishonest. Not you, but the press is very dishonest. You have something to say?
Well, I very much appreciate the question, because it was interesting to watch. We had a chance to go along on the historic trip to Middle East peace, which our generation of veterans never dreamed would be possible. So you would think that the Pentagon press corps of all press corps would be front and center across the board on wanting to give credit to the president for forging this kind of peace, and instead what they want to talk about is a policy about them, which simply says maybe the policy should look like the White House or other military installations where you have to wear a badge that identifies that you're press, or you can't just roam anywhere you want. It used to be, Mr. President, the press could go anywhere, pretty much anywhere in the Pentagon, the most classified area in the world. or also that if they sign on to the credentialing, they're not going to try to get soldiers to break the law by giving them classified information. So it's common sense stuff, Mr. President. We're trying to make sure national security is respected, and we're proud of the policy.
You know, we have an option here, as you know, the press years ago moved into the White House. It used to be across the street. We could move them. You're lucky I'm president, because we could move them very easily across the street. They used to be there. They would have more room. We have a beautiful, nice space. You can sit all by yourselves and have fun. Instead, you walk around the White House talking to anybody that can breathe. And, you know, but I find that when it comes to war, and now our great Department of War, we have some great people over there, I think it bothers me to have soldiers and even, you know, high-ranking generals walking around with you guys on their sleeve, asking them, because they can make a mistake, and a mistake can be tragic. They can do it innocently, too. They can, you know, and they're not press people. They don't really deal with the press, so they're not really necessarily good at it, although I think it's mostly instinctual one way or the other. You're either good at things or you're not. But I could see you being bothered by that. So you have them in an area and you treat them fairly, but they're not allowed to go into
Much like the
somebody's office and sit with them for 10 hours.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I can understand.
Boston had some street takeovers that we saw. Are you going to work with or try and work with the mayor of Boston? And then they have a World Cup. They have several World Cup games. I know Argentina knows about World Cups. They have several World Cup games. Could those games move to cities that do work with you?
We could take them away. I love the people of Boston. I know the games are sold out, but your mayor is not good. They're worse than her. At least she's intelligent. You know, some are extremely low IQ. Those bother me more. She's intelligent, but she's radical left. And they're taking over parts of Boston. That's a pretty big statement, right? We could get them back in about 2 seconds. All she has to do is call us. We'll go in and take them back. But she's afraid to because she thinks it's bad politically. She could take them back, too. The Boston police are great. I mean, I know them. They love me. She'll never tell them to go after Trump because they love me and I love them. And I got a tremendous police vote and military vote, you know, and fireman vote. All of them. No, I think she is hurting Boston. The answer is yes. If somebody is doing a bad job, and if I feel there's unsafe conditions, I would call Johnny, the head of FIFA, who's phenomenal, and I would say, let's move it to another location. And he would do that. He wouldn't love to do it, but he'd do it. Very easily he'd do it. And this is the right time to do it. If I thought Boston was doing something that was going to cause safety conditions for the World Cup, I could say the same thing for the Olympics, because we have events that are in different locations for the Olympics. It's based in LA. If I thought LA was not going to be prepared properly, I would move it to another location if I had to. On that one, I'd probably have to get a different kind of a permission, but we would do that. Gavin Newsom, he's got to get his act together, because had we not gone in at the beginning of my term, had we not gone in with a very strong, powerful force, they would have lost LA. Now, you already lost 25,000 houses to fires. You got a big scar right in the middle of the city. And that should have never happened, because they should have had the water flowing in from the Pacific Northwest. All they had to do is open up the valves. He didn't want to do it. And he didn't want to do it. He says for environmental reasons. I don't believe that. But, for some reason, he didn't want to do it. And lost 25,000. You had no water in the fire pumps. You had no water in the sprinkler systems in the ceilings. There were no houses. Normally, the things would go in. You might not have lost 2 houses. So if he doesn't play ball, we're going to have to be very tough with him. He's done a bad job. Just to finish off on that, so when we went in, we did a phenomenal job. We went in with great force, and that was the end of it. We put it out. We extinguished that fire, which was agitation, and it was a very dangerous position to be in. And we went and did a great job. But the chief, said we could have never done this without President Trump and without the federal government.
Alfonso, how you doing?
He said that. Now, 2 or 3 weeks later, he said, "Oh, we could have done it," but he knows he couldn't. The city was going to be taken over if I didn't go in, and you have to remember that Los Angeles was going to be taken over, and we have it where the chief said it, I believe, numerous times, but that was as it was happening. That was a rough one. That was nasty. And if we saw a situation like that, yeah, we'd be forced to make a move. Boston better clean up their act. That's all I can say. Go ahead. One more question. Yeah, please.
Do you feel any urgency to end the shutdown in the next week, 2 weeks, or would you be fine if this stretches into November and then toward the holidays with folks not getting paid?
Well, you know, shutdown, we've had many, many shutdowns, and this is a shutdown that shouldn't have happened. A group of people brilliantly decided to make it after the election. I said, thank you very much. In other words, give it to Trump instead of Biden. So it shouldn't happen. And likewise, debt ceiling shouldn't have. But the big, great, big, beautiful bill solved the debt ceiling problem for.
Is there a point where you would reach out to
No,
all parties
here's what's
and try
happening
to
on the
come to a deal?
shutdown, though. Honestly, can I put it in plain words for you? And you're a smart guy, so you all understand, but a lot of people don't. The Democrats are getting killed on the shutdown because we're closing up programs that are Democrat programs that we were opposed to. So we're being able, and they're never going to come back in many cases. So we're being able to do things that we were unable to do before. So we're closing up programs that are Democrat programs that we wanted to close up or that we never wanted to happen, and now we're closing them up. And we're not going to let them come back. The Democrats are getting killed. And we're going to have a list of them on Friday, closing up some of the most egregious, socialist, semi-communist, probably not full communist, we're saving that for New York, but semi-communist programs. And we're closing them up. We're not closing up Republican programs because we think they work. So the Democrats are getting killed, but they're not telling the people about that. I say it, nobody, well, I haven't said it probably as bluntly as I just said it, but so we are closing up Democrat programs that we think, that we disagree with, and they're never going to open again. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
The police don't want you to know this, but the reason we always ask for your insurance first before your registration is because
It's gotten to be almost customary, but we're taking care of it. We've got the military paid in full, and we're doing a lot of things. We're ending some programs that we don't want. They happen to be Democrat.
To those that are wondering, we're waiting for Trump to do a lunch here at any time.
Sponsored programs, but we're
This is from earlier.
ending some programs that we never wanted, and we're probably not going to allow them to come back. I think they made a mistake. I think they made a big mistake. This is really a Schumer shutdown because he's become sort of irrelevant, and he wants to make himself relevant again.
And in terms of the politics of this historic peace deal that we're on the way to go sign right now, you would think it's good for everybody. But at a rally this weekend, they were cheering for you and they were booing Netanyahu. What's up with that?
I don't know, but we're going to make everybody.
I need those the one videos, like the first few of the Jason ones.
Happy. The one thing I can tell you is everybody is happy, whether it's Jewish,
all the way up until the Alex Jones, and then there was the other guy too.
or Muslim, or the Arab countries. Every country is dancing in the streets, and it's a point in time. I don't think you'd ever see it again. They've never seen it for 3,000 years. If you like one group, you don't like the other group, and if you like the other group, you don't like the first group. And this is the first time they've ever seen where everybody is unified, because as you know, we're going to Egypt after Israel.
Thank
and
you.
We're going to meet all of the leaders of the very powerful and big countries and very rich countries and others, and they're all into this deal. Everybody's into it. It's never happened before. So I would say this is a lot tougher, but we'll see how it all works out.
Mr. President, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister, has not gone so far as to say the war is over. In your view, is the war
is over. The war is over. The war is over. Okay, you understand that? Good.
Is the ceasefire going to hold? Are you confident the ceasefire will hold? Are you confident that the ceasefire is going to hold?
I think so. I think it's going to hold. I think people are, a lot of reasons why it's going to hold, but I think people are tired of it. It's been centuries, okay? Not just
recent. It's been centuries. I think people are tired of it. Yeah, the ceasefire is going to hold, and we're going to make sure it holds.
Mr. President, what will Gaza look like a year from now?
The International Stabilization Force, as part of the
strong force. I don't think it's going to have a big impact because I think barely we're going to have to use it. I think everybody knows their place. It's going to be great for everybody. It's going to be great for the surrounding countries, Arab, Muslim, all of them. It's going to be great for Israel. Everybody is happy, and I think it's going to stay that way. Peter.
And if the ceasefire does hold, how long until we get to the part of the 20-point peace plan where developers can go in and make Gaza the Riviera of the Middle East?
Well, I don't know about the Riviera for a while, because you take a look at what you have. You have to get people taken care of first. But it's going to start really essentially immediately. I mean, they're going to have to start by removing a lot of structures that you see that are down to the ground. I mean, it's blasted. This is like a demolition site. Almost the entire site is. So you have to get rid of what you have there. You have structures that are very dangerous. They're falling down. If they haven't fallen, they're going to fall down of their own volition. So that process, Peter, is going to start pretty much immediately.
What will it look like a year from now, in your view?
Well, a year, that's very quick. But over the years, it'll look very good. It'll be, it's got the first chance it's had in centuries of being peaceful. It's always been a very, very strange area. It's always been loaded up with problems, religious problems, problems like no other place probably in the world. And I think it's going to normalize. All you can say, if it normalizes, that would be fantastic.
The government structure, sir, that you have set up in that peace plan, how soon will that new governing body be in place?
Very quickly. And everybody wants to be a part of it. You're talking about the Board of Peace?
That's right.
Everybody wants to be a part of it. I've had calls from all of the leaders of countries. They all want to be a part. I mean, the leaders themselves, they're not going to send somebody. They want to be a part of it.
Do you know who's going to be a part of it?
I do.
Can you share?
No, not yet. Absolutely.
Have you spoken to Tony Blair about it since the... Have you spoken to Tony Blair about it?
I have. At first I want to find out that Tony would be popular with all, because I just don't know that. And I like Tony. I've always liked Tony, but I want to find out that he's an acceptable choice to everybody.
What guarantees have you been able to give to both the Israelis and the Arab countries? The Israelis are very...
And we have a lot of verbal guarantees too. And I don't think they're going to want to disappoint me. I have a lot of verbal guarantees that aren't down in writing, but they were given to me, and I believe they're going to be held very strongly. That's why I think it's going to be successful.
Hi, good to see you. Good to see you, Mr. President. Thank you. Good to see you. I'm sure you've seen reports of Hamas rearming, instituting themselves as a Palestinian police force, shooting rivals. What is your message?
Where they are standing, because they do want to stop the problems, and they've been open about it, and we gave them approval for a period of time. You have to understand, they've lost probably 60,000 people. That's a lot of retribution. They've lost 60,000 people, and the ones that are living right now were, in many cases, very young when this all started. And we are having them watch that there's not going to be big crime or some of the problems that you have when you have areas like this that have been literally demolished. You have 2 million people, and probably it'll be less than that, but you have close to 2 million people going back to buildings that have been demolished. And a lot of bad things can happen. So we want it to be safe. I think it's going to be fine. Who knows for sure, Katie? But I think it's going to be fine.
Mr. President. Yes. Hi. What is the latest that you've heard about the hostages, when they will be released? Do you expect to meet with any of them?
The hostages might be even a little early, but I don't want to say that. So they have the hostages. I understand all 20, and we may get them out a little bit early. Getting them was amazing, actually, because we were involved, and they were in places that you don't want to know about. Deep.
Some of the top Biden administration folks who were there, like Antony Blinken, seem to want some credit for the peace deal. Blinken says it's good that President Trump adopted and built on the plan that the Biden administration developed. What do you think about that?
Everybody knows it's a joke. Look, they did such a bad job. This should have never happened. This wouldn't have even happened. That was weak leadership, terrible. And the same thing with Russia, Ukraine. If just a decent president, not a great president like me, not a great president. If a decent president was in, you wouldn't have had the Russia-Ukraine.
All right, Trump's live, guys. Let's shoot over to Trump live.
Yes,
We can
sir.
go back to that if we want to. Hope everybody's having a good day. Don't forget to hit the like, share, subscribe, all that stuff.
Oh, God.
Let me get this real fast so I could post it. There's my man. I'm sitting there looking, and it just gives me my announcement now. Like I didn't
Really?
even have to keep. Yeah, I didn't even have to keep looking.
You know, dude, listen. All right, here you go.
Wait, wrong one. Hold on.
Okay, you want to see something funny though on the side? Watch Deltron and Billy go back and forth. This is hilarious. In the chat, I'm telling you, it's nuts.
Here we go.
All right, not playing.
I know. Hold on.
Okay.
Yes, that was the what the fuck? Is it sharing? Is it sharing?
No.
All right, hold on. I don't know what the hell just happened. Sorry, guys. Hold on. That's why everything was so weird, dude.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, yo. All right. Here we go, man. Damn, we just lost everybody. Fuck. Bush. I don't know what just happened.
They're not taking advantage anymore. No, China's paying 55% and a potential 155% come November 1st, unless we make a deal. And I'm meeting with President Xi. We have a very good relationship. We're going to be meeting in South Korea in a couple of weeks, and we'll see what we can do. We have a very good relationship with China, but you know, it's been probably a little bit like your relationship with China. They try and take advantage, but most countries do. I mean, I can say the European Union took advantage, but not anymore. We worked out a very fair trade deal. Japan, we worked out a very fair deal. South Korea, where I'll be meeting President Xi, we worked out a very fair deal. And I expect we'll probably work out a very fair deal with President Xi of China. So most of you will be with us. It's going to be very exciting. And I think we're going to work out something that's good for both countries.
Are you at least interested in expediting the nuclear-powered subs to Australia?
Well, we are doing that, yeah. We're doing that. We have them moving very, very quickly.
Mr. President, I don't think you've ever been to Australia. Have you thought about coming to Australia and trying out some of the golf courses?
I would, and I actually have been to Australia, and I did play one of your great golf courses. They have great golf courses there. But I have been to Australia, actually.
Would you come again?
Oh, I would. In fact, I've been invited to go, and I'll have to give it serious consideration. No, it's a real possibility.
Did the Prime Minister invite you today?
He did.
And perhaps we could time it, must be said, with the President's Cup that Australia hosts as well.
When is the President's Cup?
We'll organise it at a time suitable for you, Mr. President.
Please, in the back, please. Yeah, in the back.
Yeah, Mr. President, the Prime Minister mentioned that there's a trade imbalance
it's very heavily in America's favour. Why does America slap such heavy tariffs on a friend and ally?
Well, we don't,
Australia?
yeah. Well, we do in some cases. We do in many cases because we've been treated unfairly. But actually, the tariffs are very light. The one thing is you buy a lot of airplanes, so that helps because you buy a lot of the beautiful Boeings, the best of the Boeings. Boeing, and by the way, Boeing is really doing well. They have lots of orders, and they're really doing a great job. They make a great plane. But Australia, because of its location, which is great, but one of the things dictated by that location is you have to order a lot of airplanes. So I guess we have that advantage. They need a lot of airplanes in Australia, and that gives us a little bit of an advantage.
Mr. President, yeah, your Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, in his Shangri-La speech in, I think it was May, warned about the potential likelihood or threat of President Xi ordering an invasion of Taiwan. 2027 is also the year that Fleet Base West is supposed to start rotating those US and UK submarines. Do you see AUKUS as a deterrent for China in the Indo-Pacific?
Yeah, I do. I think it is, but I don't think we're going to need it. I think we'll be just fine with China. China doesn't want to do that. First of all, the United States is the strongest military power in the world by far. It's not even close. Not even close. We have the best equipment. We have the best of everything, and nobody's going to mess with that. And I don't see that at all with President Xi. I think we're going to get along very well as it pertains to Taiwan and others. Now, that doesn't mean it's not the apple of his eye, because probably it is. But I don't see anything happening. We have a very good trade relationship. We're going to have a very good, I think, when we leave South Korea, it could be wrong, but I think we'll end up with a very...
Build a website you love with Wix. For your words, create your brand.
Given the trade surplus that the US enjoys with Australia, would you consider lifting the tariffs that you've imposed on Australia? And can you give us any details about the critical...
Yeah, well, the tariffs have been amazing because, tariffs have been really a reason that I was able to settle almost all of the, I've settled 8 wars in 8 months. Not bad. I have one more to go. It's Russia, Ukraine, and I think we'll get there, but it's turned out to be nasty because you have 2 leaders that truly hate each other, You can't have it all, right? They hate each other beyond all else, and it makes it actually a little bit difficult. But we try, of the 8 deals, I would say because of tariffs, 4 or 5 of them were settled. It's an amazing thing, the power of tariffs in terms of our country. But tariffs have always been used against us. We never use them against anywhere else. And now you have a president that for national security reasons and other reasons is using them. And we've become a very rich nation again and a very secure nation again. But we've also become a nation that used that power of tariffs and the power of trade to settle 5 of the 8 wars that I settled. I settled 8. I'm very proud of that. Nobody else has settled 1. I don't think there's been an American president that settled 1. I think there probably hasn't been outside of the 2 countries involved, or however many are at war. I don't think there's ever been an outside country that settled a war, period. So I settled 8 in 8 months. I'm proud of that. Now, in the meantime, I'm running a country that's right now we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. We were dead. A year and a half ago, we were a dead country. Now we're the hottest country in the world, economically and otherwise. So, but I will say this, Australia pays very low tariffs, very, very low tariffs. In fact, Australia pays among the lowest tariffs. Please, go ahead.
Mr. President, there's been concern in Australia that it's taken 9 months to get this meeting. Have you had any concerns with this administration, with its stance on Palestine, climate change, or even things the ambassador said about you in the past, the Australian ambassador?
I don't know anything about him. I mean, if he said bad, then maybe he'll like to apologize. I really don't know. Did an ambassador say something bad about him? Don't tell me. I don't know. Where is he? Is he still working for you?
Yeah.
You said bad?
Before I took this position, Mr. President,
I don't like you either. I don't, and I probably never will. Go ahead. No, you went. Go ahead. Behind you, President.
Mr. President, your Secretary of the Navy said there will be some clarification.
Broke it if you got him.
Can you tell us?
Well, he'll get that taken care of. These are just minor details that he'll take care of. John, you're going to get that taken care of, right? There shouldn't be any more clarifications because we're just we're just going now full steam ahead building.
Yeah,
Yeah, please.
Thank you. Mr. President, are you now satisfied with Australia's defence investment, or do you want Australia to invest more in defence?
Well, I'd always like more, but they have to do what they have to do. You know, you can only do so much. I think they've been great. They're building magnificent holding pads for the submarines. It's going to be expensive too. You wouldn't believe the level of complexity, right, and how expensive it is. They're building tremendous docking because they have a lot of ships and a lot of things happening. And I think their military has been very strong, very, very strong. Over here, please.
Mr. President, on the war that you haven't solved yet, the Ukraine-Russia situation, have you now locked in a meeting? And can you explain, just a few weeks ago at Unnight,
Hi, Lindsay.
Ukraine could possibly win the war and
Well, they could.
territory, but now
They could
it's
still
very
win it. I don't think they will, but they could still win it. I never said they would win it. I said they could win. Anything can happen. You know, war is a very strange thing. A lot of bad things happen, a lot of good things happen. If you look at the Middle East, I would say prior to us hitting Iran so hard, we could have never made that deal because you would have had a dark cloud over the Middle East when we took out their nuclear capability, which was one of the great military maneuvers of all time. It was flawless. You saw that. Yeah. Those magnificent B-2s. I mean, that was a flawless move that was done by some very talented people, headed up by Pete and everybody else, and our great generals, and General in particular, Raisin Kane. We did a great job. And when that happened, everything was different, and we were able to get a deal. If we didn't do that, if it wasn't, you know, they wanted to do that for 22 years, Mr. Prime Minister. For 22 years, I had the pilots here, the B-2 pilots, and they came to the Oval Office, and I thought they deserved it. They flew 37 hours back and forth. We had 52 tankers up there. We had a lot of planes up there with them, but they were the primary plane. But we had a lot of planes, F-22s and F-35s and F-6. We had a lot of planes. But we had 52 tankers. Can you believe that? And it was just like a flawless mission. And when it was finished, the Middle East just opened up. Amazing. And they've wanted to do it for 22 years. The pilots came up to me. They said, you know, for 22 years, we practiced this maneuver 3 times a year for 22 years, our predecessors and us. These are now young pilots, you know, but they're older now. Predecessors practiced it. And they said, we never had a president that would let us do it, but I let him do it. And it totally opened up the Middle East. It took the cloud over the, you know, we had a dark cloud over the Middle East, and now it's all, I mean, we have a little situation relatively with Hamas, and that will be taken care of very quickly if they don't straighten it out themselves, because they're in violation of their agreement.
Thank you, Mr. President. On rare earth minerals, Australia is one of the only places in the world that processes rare earth minerals. Could there be an agreement? China has 90% of the processing. Could there be an agreement over processing rare earth minerals with Australia?
Sure, that's what we're doing. It's part of the agreement.
Part of the agreement.
Can you say with
Go ahead, please.
Sorry.
Yeah.
On a follow-up on Taiwan, there are reports that you will come up, or China is pressuring you to not support independence for Taiwan in exchange for a trade deal.
Well, I'm not going to talk about that. What I'll talk about, you and I will have that discussion in a couple of weeks when I'm in South Korea with President Xi. We're going to be talking about a lot of things. I assume that's going to be one of the things, but I'm not going to talk about that now. Yeah, please go ahead.
Mr. President, you just alluded to the violence in the Middle East. What steps is the administration taking to maintain the ceasefire?
Well, a lot of steps, and right now it's in the hands of others. You know, we have 59 countries that agreed to the deal. We have a peace in the Middle East for the first time ever. We made a deal with Hamas that, you know, they're going to be very good, they're going to behave, they're going to be nice, and if they're not, we're going to go and we're going to eradicate them if we have to. They'll be eradicated, and they know that. So they went in, and I don't believe it was the leadership, but they had some rebellion in there among themselves, and they killed some people, you know, a lot of people. But this is a violent group. You know, you probably noticed over the last 100 years, this is a very violent group of people. And they got very rambunctious, and they did things that they shouldn't be doing. And if they keep doing it, then we're going to go in and straighten it out, and it'll happen very quickly. And
pretty violently, unfortunately.
Yeah, just following up on that question, when you say we are going to eradicate Hamas, who is we? Does that include American boots on the ground?
No, it won't be on the ground at all. We don't need to because we have many countries, as you know, signed on to this deal. The way I view it, 59 countries and unanimous. There's never been, nobody ever believed us. Countries that 4 months ago didn't like each other and now they're all aligned together. I mean, we've had countries calling me when they saw some of the killing with Hamas, saying we'd love to go in and take care of the situation ourselves. In addition, you have Israel would go in 2 minutes if I asked them to go in. I could tell them, go in and take care of it. But right now, we haven't said that. We're going to give it a little chance, and hopefully there will be a little less violence. But right now, you know, they're violent people. Hamas has been very violent. But they don't have the backing of Iran anymore. They don't have the backing of really anybody anymore. They have to be good. And if they're not good, they'll be eradicated.
Were any innocent civilians killed in the Caribbean, Mr. President?
Not you. Go ahead, please.
Could the Prime Minister weigh in on more on the processing?
Yeah.
And can Australia expand the process of rare earths?
Absolutely we can, and we have the capacity to do so, and part of this deal is very specific, $8.5 billion pipeline. There'll be $1 billion contributed from Australia and the United States over the next 6 months with projects that are immediately available. There's 3 groups of projects, ones that are joint activities between Australia and the United States, such as Alcoa. Secondly is projects that will be US investment that the US will undertake in Australia, including processing, and then ones that Australia will undertake, some as well. One of them is Australia, the US and Japan as well. So what we're trying to do here is to take the opportunities which are there. Australia has had a view for some time, a bit similar to putting America first.
Right.
Our plan's called A Future Made in Australia, which is about not just digging things up and exporting them, but how do we make sure that we have across the supply chains with our friends being able to benefit, seize those opportunities. So we certainly see part of what this is about isn't just digging things up, it's also about processing, including the joint ventures between Australia and the United States.
Can the US and Australia really compete with China? Aren't we decades behind in terms of the development?
No. You've been reading the wrong newspapers. We're not decades. We are way ahead of China militarily, the United States. We're way ahead of them in every form of military, other than they're building a lot of ships, and we'll have that started. We'll be catching them on that.
When it comes
But we will, when it comes to weaponry, when it comes to, I'll go, right now, AI. The big thing is AI. They're building more plants in this country than anybody ever imagined. We're going to have over $20 trillion of investment for this year. The most we ever had was a tiny fraction of that. As an example, Biden, who's the worst president in the history of our country by far, by the way, but they were less than $1 trillion for 4 years. We're already now breaking $18 trillion of investment in 8 months. 18 trillion. No country in history has ever done that. We're way ahead of China in AI, and we're way ahead of China militarily from the standpoint of the sophisticated weapons. We have weapons that a lot of people don't even know about, and I got them started 4 years ago. I rebuilt the military 4 years ago, fortunately, because Biden didn't do anything but give a piece of it away to Afghanistan. Fortunately, as much as it sounded like it was a small part of what I built, but the Afghanistan giveaway was one of the worst. That was probably the most embarrassing day in the period in the history of our country. But we have the greatest military. We have the best equipment. We have the best manufacturers of equipment. We have the best weapons. When you look at our weapons, I've been talking a lot about our weapons. Everybody wants our weapons. But it's great to be working with Anthony. It's great to be working with the people of Australia because they also, it's a smaller country, but you have done a fantastic job in weaponry and the kind of things that we do a lot of, joint work together. Our militaries work very, very closely together. We've been really an amazing ally when you think of it, right? There's never been any games. We're strongly committed, and they're strongly committed. There are some games with other countries, but there haven't been games with Australia. Where do you come from?
I'm from Australia.
Who are you
The
with?
Sydney Morning Herald.
Nasty guy. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to ask.
All right, go ahead.
On in your first term, you worked with two Australian prime ministers, Scott Morrison and Malcolm Turnbull. You might remember
Right.
they're from same side of politics as you. Mr. Albanese's different side. Can you tell us a bit more about what it's like to work with Mr. Albanese compared to those two?
Well, I got along. I mean, that wouldn't be fair because the man on my right has a big advantage. You know that, right? But I think he's doing a really good job, and we've had a very good relationship. I don't want to compare one with the other, but I'll tell you, this one is. They really have a great prime minister.
Thank you.
Okay, was that a good statement?
I'll use it in my ads in 28.
President Putin on Thursday, did you discuss his ongoing attacks on civilian areas in Ukraine?
Yeah.
Did you say cut it out? Did you say show
Yeah.
an article of good faith to me?
I did. But as you know, most of the people dying are soldiers. The soldiers that are dying in Russia and Ukraine, it's unbelievable. 5,000 to 7,000 a week. Can you believe it? And I look at that and I say it's pretty amazing. But in addition to that, there are attacks on Kiev and some of the other places. And it's human lives, but the big number of human lives are soldiers that are being killed on the battlefield. Anywhere from 5,000 to 7,000, sometimes more than that every single week. It's not even believable. It's a bloodbath. It's the worst since the Second World War, the worst number of people. And it doesn't affect us in any way. We don't pay anything because now they pay us for the weapons that they get. The NATO is paying us for the weapons, as you know. It doesn't affect. I guess you could say that's a positive thing. They pay us, but I'm not interested in that. I did straighten it out. Biden gave them $350 billion. Can you believe it? And all they did is get deeper in. It's a shame. Gave them $350 billion. A lot of lives were lost. That's a war that would have never happened if I were president. But we do speak about that. I speak about all of the lives, but I do speak about the civilian lives. Yeah.
The First Lady has done such an amazing job on Ukrainian children who were abducted by Russia. Would you support Senator Lindsey Graham's bill to declare Russia a terrorist state? And you have within your power, you're the most powerful man on earth. Why don't you just enable Ukraine to finish this war tomorrow?
Well, if you knew anything about what you were talking about, you'd be able. You do. I don't think you do, really. I don't think you do because it's a little more complicated than that. But it sounds easy. We're in the process of trying to make a deal. If we make a deal, that's great. If we don't make a deal, it'll be a lot of people are going to be paying a big price. Quiet.
President Trump, so a question to both of you, if you don't mind. So
I love his haircut.
He's
I'm going to try that. No, I love it. Go ahead.
So, as we all know, China controls 90% of the global supply of critical minerals. They have launched attacks on Australian companies, primarily Lynas Rare Earths. What will happen to China if they don't play fair with this?
So, it's a very interesting question. We have a tremendous power, and that's the power of tariff. And I think that China will come to the table and make a very fair deal, because if they don't, they're going to be paying us 157% in tariffs. Right now, they're paying 55 to 57%. When I was first president, first term, we had the greatest economy we've ever had. And as you know, people don't write too much about it, but China paid us hundreds of billions of dollars worth of money for tariffs. Biden left it, but he didn't enforce it. He gave exceptions to almost everything. And so he left the tariffs, but he didn't really collect the numbers that he should have collected, and because he didn't know what the hell he was doing. So now the tariffs are much higher in China than they were before, and they're high on other countries depending on whether or not we like that country or we get along, and that's for national security purposes. So I made deals with Japan, I made deals with the European Union, or the whole of Europe practically, but the European Union, made deals with a lot of a lot of different people. We have a very fair deal for, I will say, Australia's paying a low number. They do have, I'll change it, we have a little bit of an advantage in that when I told you, the advantage we have is airplanes. We sell a lot of airplanes to them and they need them. It's a very vibrant place and people go in and out, and I look forward to going there myself. And I think it's unlikely I'll be taking a ship. That's a long
journey.
That's a long. But China has treated us with great respect. Now, in the past, they didn't treat other presidents with great respect. They would take hundreds of billions and even trillions of dollars out of the country, and they would spend it and build their military. Now they're treating us with great respect. Now, we'll see what happens. I said, if we don't make a deal, I'm putting on an additional 100% on November 1st. I think we'll make a deal. They threatened us with rare earths, and I threatened them with tariffs, but I could also threaten them with many other things, like airplanes. You know about airplanes, because they can't get parts for their airplanes. We build their airplanes, and we do a great job. They're largely Boeings, and we could stop the parts. We did stop the parts, actually, when they did the initial threat. That's a big, they closed down over 400 of their airplanes, but we don't want to do that. But we have a much simpler thing. If we don't make a deal, we'll charge them a very substantial tariff, and they'll be paying us hundreds of billions of dollars a year, which they're basically paying right now. We had presidents that allowed China and other countries get away with murder. We're not going to allow that, but we're going to have a fair deal. I want to be good to China. I love my relationship with President Xi. We have a great relationship. I believe after we leave South Korea, we'll be there together. We thought that would be a good place to meet, and we're going to be meeting. I'll be in Malaysia, I'll be in Japan, I'll be in a couple of others. We'll be sort of doing a little bit of a tour. I've been invited to go to China, and I'll be doing that sometime fairly early next year. We have it sort of set. But I think we're going to have a very good relationship with China. And again, they will threaten us with rare earths. I don't think they're threatening us too much right now. But they could do that, but I threaten them with something I think is much more powerful, and that's tariffs. Because at a certain point, they will not be able to do any business with us. At a certain point, if they pay enough tariffs, it's almost like saying, we don't want to do business with you, but it's probably nicer. Saying you're going to pay 158, 157% tariff is a nicer way of saying that we don't want to do business with you. And if they don't do business with us, I think China's in big trouble, I'll be honest with you. I think China is, I don't know that they even make it. I really do. I believe that they're in big trouble. And I don't want them to be in big trouble. I want them to do great. I want them to thrive. But we have to thrive together. It's a two-way street. I think when we finish our meetings, and it's going to be a big deal. Look, I'm meeting with a lot of other countries, but this seems to be the one that people are very interested in. I think when we finish our meetings in South Korea, China and I will have a really fair and really great trade deal together. I want them to buy soybeans. They stopped buying our soybeans because they thought that was punishment. And it is punishment to our farmers, but we're not going to allow that to happen because I made a great trade deal with China, a $50 billion trade deal, and they were great about it. They were doing everything that they were supposed to do. And then when Biden came in, you know, I used to call President Xi all the time to say, thank you, or you're not buying enough. In other words, they were supposed to buy. Biden, do you think Biden ever called him? I don't think Biden ever called him. You think Biden lied awake at night thinking about trade with China? He didn't know what he was doing. He was an incompetent president. We had an incompetent president, but you don't have that anymore. So I think we're going to end up having a fantastic deal with China. It's going to be a great trade deal. It's going to be fantastic for both countries. And it's going to be fantastic for the entire world. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Keep going. Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Thank you, guys. Keep going. Keep going. Thank you, press.
That's that, bro. I'll see what's up to the chat real fast. What's it popping? So. That's it, bro.
Wait till you read the chat.
Adele, why
Wait
is
till you read the chat.
I don't know. Oh no, I'm not reading that. Well, you heard it. I still want to have more. I have a ton more stuff that I didn't get to present. It was a shitty. It was. We'll have a better second one because I got a lot more stuff. I just didn't get it. So it is what it is, man. It's nothing we could do if nothing we could do. So we'll try another one. But I hope everybody that watched enjoyed listening to Trump. Hope you all have a good day. Dell, thanks for popping in. Monkey or Donkey. Ryan.
Yeah, man.
Is Trump, Anyways, y'all have a good day. Thank you. God bless. We out. Peace.
Peace.